Hi, I'm Hann from Archery Supplies. Today I'm just trying out the new Victory VAP arrows for my recurve bow. Now I tried them last week with the compound and bare shaft I hit all 10s. They were all in the 10. They shot unbelievably. I went out and shot that night with the compound and shot a really good score. So I thought what I'll do is I'll make up some for my recurve and see how they go. Now one of my viewers on my first video about these arrows said they shoot a little bit stiff. And I took that in, rightly or wrongly. Anyway, so I shot my first group with them, and what I found is they were shooting, the height-wise, they were pretty good. They were all in a line, but they were shooting left to right. Okay, my groups were not as good as they were with my tornadoes, win tornadoes I normally shoot. So I thought maybe it's me, because with recurve you can always be really erratic, whether that's the right word or not, inconsistent. So I thought what I'll do is I'll shoot both. I'll shoot both the tornadoes and I'll shoot the VAPs from Victory and compare them. Now this group here, that's the bunch of my tornadoes. Now that's a pretty good group. Now if my sight was in the center, that most of those would be in the gold, and I'd be pretty happy with that group. It's a pretty good score for my state. So in a state competition, that would be a pretty good score. Now, what you notice is the Victory arrows on this side of the group. So the tornadoes, they're both 400 spine, okay? So the tornadoes are on this side and the Victories are primarily on this side of the target. Now, with the exception of this one. Now, what you'll notice is the height on the Victories. So there's a Victory there, there's a Victory there, Victory there, Victory there, Victory there, Victory there, Victory there, and there's one slightly higher. What you'll notice is the height's pretty good, but left to right, they're pretty much all over the place, right? So I'm thinking to myself, maybe the spine's wrong on these arrows. Now I'm going to explain this a little bit. So what I did then is I shot bare shaft. So I shot 2 bare shafts up here, and they're primarily on that side of the group. Now what that indicates generally is a weak spined arrow. Now what I've done with the Victories was my other arrows, when I first set up these, and I've got a video when I set up the tornadoes. When I set up these tornadoes, I thought 120 grains is going to make my spine a little bit weak, so I fitted 110 grain points to them. Now when I was setting up these Victory arrows, I'll just pull one out. So first off, I really like the arrows. The coating at the end is an ice coating. And I set up 0.001 this time. My set for my compounds were the 0.006, and I shot really well with them. So I thought, well, for recurve, I'm pretty serious on recurve. I shoot it every day. Let's go for the 0.001s. And I'm looking at points. Now, the Victories didn't have in stock the 120 grain points, which is what I would normally choose. They didn't have them in stock in the 600 spine point. Now the 400 spine point will fit inside the shaft, but just goes over the end just a little bit. I don't think enough to notice, right? So I thought what I'll do with the Victories is I'll fit the 140 grain points, same as my compound with it. But I ran the risk of doing that I was going to make the spine too weak. Now I also thought they've got a huge point. Now the point goes to probably there. That's going to stiffen up the spine of this arrow. So I thought I'm probably going to be okay. Now obviously I wasn't okay, and these arrows here would suggest my spine is too weak on these arrows. Now when I stuck these points in, I stuck them in with a hot melt glue so I can take them off. So I had an inclination my point was going to be make the arrow too weak, a spine, and I would get basically a grouping left to right on the target. That was my prediction. But I was interested to see how the 140 grain point went with the recurve compared to the compound. Because with the compound, the 140 grain point, I'm going to say, is starting to become standard in the target world. So I thought, well, maybe a 140 grain point with the recurve is not a bad way to go. Now these shafts were always also significantly lighter than the X10 counterpart, or the Tornado. Tornado was almost the same weight as an X10. So I thought, well, I can actually afford to put a heavier point on because it's going to shoot in about the same height. And you can see here my Victories and Tornadoes are in exactly the same alignment, left, up and down. So they're shooting about the same speed, but I put 140 grain point versus the 110 grain point. However, I'm getting the grouping left to right. So my next step is to now fit 110 grain point to this and see how the arrows group. So when you buy a set of arrows, it's a best guess with recurve about the spine to get it to shoot right. You guess and you hope you get it right, because 2 pounds on a recurve will affect the spine of the arrow, and the point weight will affect the spine, and it will affect your ability to group. Now, the last end I shot with the recurve, which is not on camera here, I did Robin Hood and arrow with the Victories, but my group was very, very poor. So my steps now are to take these points out and fit about 110 grains. I may even fit 90 grains. I'm not quite sure which way to go. And to try the groups and see how they go. So when you make a change, this is my standard here. This is how I normally group. So I'm keeping those arrows, and when I make a change and I ensure that the change is not a downward change. And when you change arrows, you can change the points to affect the spine. So it's not like I throw the Victories away and go, oh, they're no good, because I know they are a good arrow. I just change the points, and forgive me my feet, I change the points until I get these arrows to fly so they all group in the middle. And sometimes it's a bit of trial and error, and even though I'm at an archery shop, sometimes I don't get it right. I know, like, I'm shooting 42 pounds at about 28.5 inches, and I know a 600 spine arrow is about right, because with these arrows here, they were pretty much spot on. And because one of the viewers said he found that they come out slightly stiff compared to other arrows, I thought, well, maybe I can get away with a heavier point and see how it goes. It didn't work. Now, these points can be cut down from 140 to 120, and I could try 120 and see how they go. But I'm more inclined to fit a lighter point to these arrows, and I'd say, maybe 110. So I'm comparing like and light. Now at the 110 point, these arrows will actually fly higher, and I'm interested to see how they fly compared to the Tornadoes. So the last point I want to make is about the clicker. I find this point, this is the point here, it's a really nice point to pull through the clicker. Now the reason I say that, I'm going to compare it to the Tornado point. This is the Tornado point there. Now what I find with the clicker, as it comes down to here, it's quite a sharp point, and it doesn't come off the clicker smooth. Now I don't know if that's fair or not. Like, most times it's fine, but sometimes you get a little shudder there. I found with this point how it comes off a lot. It's a much longer, steady drop off. I didn't get any of the shudder or shake. Now that could be me pulling through the clicker, but I do prefer the point on the VAP to pull through the clicker. It just, to me, it makes a lot of sense, rather than the rapid drop off of the other point. I mean, it's probably not going to make much difference, but to me, I do prefer the other point. But I do shoot good scores with the Tornadoes, and I shot good scores with them straight off the bat. I fitted the 110 grain points, and they shot perfect straight up. The VAPs, that didn't happen for me. With the recurve, with the compound, I shot great scores straight up. But compounds are not as sensitive to spine as a recurve, because with a recurve, you've got to release it with your fingers, and the arrow comes out very much in a whipping action. Now, just on spine of arrows, I was setting up a person's bow the other day in the shop, and the spine arrows were wrong for the bow. They came with the bow. And because the arrow was whipping so much out the bow, it pulled the tip off the plunger button. Now, so basically destroyed the plunger button with one arrow, because the arrows were incorrect. Now, if you shot the right arrows, which I set him up with in the end, the plunger button would have been fine. Now, I also had a person shooting a compound with fingers, and he bent his plunger button, clearly because the arrows would have not been correct for the bow, because they would have been hitting the plunger button on the way through, causing it to bend, and he returned it to me with a warranty. and said this plunger button's no good because it's bent. Well, with fingers, when you shoot fingers, whether it be out of a recurve or a compound, you need to get the spine correct, and it requires a bit of playing around with points and arrows to make it happen. So with the Victories, with the Victory Elites, with the recurve, I haven't given up. This is my first stage. Next stage, we're going to try some more points, and that'll be tomorrow. And then eventually for recurve, I'm going to try some fatter Victory shafts, or maybe some cheaters from Carbon Tech, with a lighter spine, so a 600 spine, and see if I can get those to shoot. Now my theory is, which is given to me by Rick McKinney, who's a Olympic champion, that the fatter shaft will actually perform well with a recurve with the correct spine. And because it's a fatter shaft, you'll get more line breakers and I'll shoot a higher score. Now, my highest score with a recurve indoors, so this is this face here at 18 meters, is about 279. I haven't broken the 280 yet. I shoot high 270. So if I can push into the 280s, it will rank me that much higher at a national level. It should win me the state level. And at a national level, it would probably push me into the top 12, top 10. So that's what I've got to try next, and I've got about 6 weeks to do it, and I'll do a video to let you know how that goes and what I try, because I want to try and get the recurve sorted for this nationals, which is in about 8 weeks time. So I'm Stephen Hann from Archery Supplies, recurve archery. Check the spine, check your arrows. This is the Victories, still love them, and I'll get them shooting. We'll do a few more videos to let you know how they've gone and what point weight I ended up choosing. Thank you very much, and have a nice day, and shoot lots. Thank you. Bye.